Back to another session in the kitchen. So my ultimate vegetable madras. Got quite a lot of ingredients there, don't be put off. First of all, we've got some steamed vegetables al dente, so par cooked. What have I got? A leek, a red pepper, a carrot, half a cup of peas, a handful of white cabbage, did I miss anything? And one Asian brinjal or long aubergine. Steaming away, pinch of turmeric, pinch of salt. We've got 350 millilitres of my Daag base gravy, and that's spelt D-A-A-G. You can find that on the channel. It's more of an authentic gravy to India and not a touristy type pataks using red food colouring type restaurant that you quite often get in Britain, if you get my drift. So we're going to make our own madras, whole spice, roasted and ground spices. Got a little handful of red Kashmiri chilies. We've got a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of black mustard seed, half a teaspoon of fennel, a heaped teaspoon of coriander seed, 4 cardamoms, half a teaspoon of peppercorns and 3 cloves. For the whole spices that we're going to add to the oil, I want that quintessentially smoky taste that a good madras curry should have. So that's why I'm using 1 black cardamom, just 3 prongs of a star anise, and a little bit of cinnamon, and that's going to go into the oil separately to the spices. We've got several green chilies chopped up. We've just got the corner piece of some cream coconut, used a little bit of coconut cream. I just want a hint of coconut. Rather than going down the citrus route, could have used some lemon juice. What I find is far superior and probably more authentic is a tablespoon of tamarind pulp with some water to make it palatable. We've got about a tablespoon and a half of ginger and garlic paste. I'm using 1 Maggi all-season seasoning stock cube as opposed to salt. Salt's always to taste. This is optional, but you're just going to get a great flavour. Sorry, but monosodium glutamate is delicious. I'm not going to miss an opportunity to make this tasty. Half a teaspoon of turmeric. Got a couple of mushrooms of your choice cut up that we're going to add, and we've got some Mumbai piyaz, some Asian red onions there. So let's get on with this, because those ingredients took quite a long time to explain, didn't they? So a nice big pan. This is going to feed, well, 4 or 5 portions. A nice big pan in that case. Base gravy heating up. Vegetables continuing to steam to the northeast there. All we're going to do is heat our pan up and add our whole spices. And a lot of people say, oh Steve, I went on your recommendation to roast whole spices and they taste burnt. And all you've got to do is heat the pan up. As soon as your pan's hot, turn it off. That's a really good way to not burn anything. What I do is usually hand break the chilies up, and these are all going to be blended, and we're going to be making our own madras style masala. Pretty spicy. So can you see that crackling now? 40 seconds. And that's it, that can come off the heat. And I'm going to blend it into a fine powder. We'll come back with that later. And I'm already feeling that great aroma. And this recipe is definitely a recipe for people that like to cook. No shortcuts here. So that quantity of whole spices made a nice you want to blend it until it's fluffy. That's how you ensure it's going to get the biggest surface area, maximum flavour. So it's just over 2 teaspoons there. Heat your pan up. Once that's hot, I'm adding some of my delicious seasoned oil, and I'm using about 5 tablespoons. And this seasoned oil happened to come from my Gobi 65 the other day, so it had curry leaves and onions and spices, and it's just going to be fantastic. And the smell of that masala is really perks up the motivation to cook this when you smell it. We'll come back in a second. As soon as your oil's hot, in with the cinnamon, the star anise and the black cardamom, 45 seconds. Next in with the onions. Want it all on a nice high heat for this, so I'm just going to give those a stir. As soon as they become a little bit translucent, we'll come back. That's been about 1 or 2 minutes. Got a horrible feeling I missed the tablespoon and a half of tomato puree with a touch of water. That's going in as well. Apologies. Not going to win any prizes for presentation or video production, I grant that. So in with the ginger and garlic. Cover the onions with it and toast it off a little bit, 1 minute. So next, with our pre-made fresh MADRAS mix, want to get that into the oil. Sizzling off, that certainly thickens up the oil. I've added a little bit more water to my tomato puree. It's all about prolonging the cooking stage of this, of the spices. You don't want it too dry, it'll burn, and you want to get maximum potential out of your flavours. Next I'm adding my Maggi stock cube instead of salt, and the turmeric and the green chilies and the coconut. And here's a little tip, because I've sort of steamed these, shallow steam, I haven't submerged the vegetables, you can use some of that amazing flavourful stock. Just look at the colours of those vegetables, really important not to overcook them, you lose the colour and some of the flavour. So that is smelling and looking good. In with the kasuri methi, or the fenugreek leaves. Quite a nice quantity there, scrunched up. And we just want to reduce this. This is where the flavour happens, in the initial stages. So we just want the oil to split, we'll come back. Next I'm adding my mushrooms. Don't boil mushrooms, do we? So they go straight into the hot ingredients like this, just to soften. Looking good. So I'm adding about half the base gravy now. We've got our pan sizzling. Always add the base gravy nice and hot. And just give that a stir. As soon as the oil split, we'll come back once again. So I know that's hard to see with all the steam, but that's bubbling throughout. We've got some red oil emerging in that sizzling great sauce. Next I'm going to add the remaining base gravy. So not too much base gravy, and I don't even want to use the word base gravy for this. It is a base gravy, but it's the dagh. More traditional Indian, as mentioned before. So I'm just going to sizzle that off, let that split. Once again, it's ferociously simmering. Now it's time to add the tamarind. It's a good time to add it now, because I don't want to really vigorously stir the vegetables. That's why I give that a brief stir. Now it's time to add all those great vegetables. Use any vegetables you want. Fold those in, make sure everything's well mixed and covered. So that's that. So as I mentioned before, those vegetables were steamed with limited amount of water. So they slowly cook, and they were al dente. So they weren't fully cooked, about 60%. So just want that. You need it on a high heat with the volume of ingredients in the pan there. But that's just going to sweat away, the sauce is going to reduce, I'm not going to stir it again. Next time you see that is probably in about 3.5, 4 minutes time, and we'll serve a bowl. So there we have it, the finished article. So if you're after a curry in a hurry, this isn't the recipe for you. If you're into doing something properly and really wanting to make the ultimate curry that tastes great and you've been there every step of the way, from grinding your own spices, chopping, slicing, dicing, making the doug, gravy, this is the recipe for you. It's a great project. Master those techniques and very much transferable to other recipes. And if you don't like vegetables, or you want to change the recipe, just do exactly the same, but use lamb, or use fish, or use chicken. It really doesn't matter. It's all in the early stages that's going to get you the results. You know, the spices, the ginger, the garlic, the oil. And I hope you've enjoyed that video. I'm ready to eat. This is just what I want in -4 weather conditions in Britain. This is great. Just make sure when you cook it you don't have any washing hanging up in your house, because it certainly smells exotic and exquisite. Thanks for watching.